At just 17, she walked onto the stage alone. No band, no backup, only a dream no one believed in. Why would a young girl walk onto a bright stage with nothing in her hands? No bag, no instruments, no friends behind her. Only silence followed her steps. The hall was large. Lights hung high above, warm and sharp at the same time. The floor shined like glass. Rows of seats stretched far back, filled with people who had come to be surprised. Some leaned forward, others crossed their arms. Many whispered. She stood still at the center. Small, quiet, 17, maybe younger to some eyes. Her clothes were plain. Dark jacket, faded shoes, nothing that asked for attention. Her hair was tied back, not neatly, just enough to keep it away from her face. She did not smile. She did not wave. She only breathed. The judges watched her closely. They had seen many people like her before. People with hope in their eyes. People who believed this moment could change everything. One judge raised an eyebrow. Another tapped a pen against the table. The silence grew heavy. Someone in the crowd coughed. She looked around once. Not escareth, nor confident either. Just aware, like someone standing at the edge of deep water, unsure whether it would be cold or warm. A question came from the table. What will you be doing today? She opened her mouth, closed it, then spoke. I'm a one-woman band. The words landed softly. A few people laughed, not loudly, just small sounds, doubtful sounds. A one-woman band. People looked around, searching for hidden speakers, for wires, for tricks. There were none. The stage was empty, clear, bright. She nodded once, as if she had expected this reaction. This was not new to her. At home, the room where she grew up was small. Pale walls. A narrow window, old curtains that let in light, but not much air. That room had been her world for years. She spent hours there, alone, sitting on the floor, tapping her fingers against her knees, humming sounds that had no words, making rhythm out of breathing, clapping, knocking on the desk. No one taught her how. She just listened. Outside that room, life was lurid. Family voices. Busy days, worries about money, worries about time. No space for dreams that made no sense, so she kept hers quiet. At school, she sat in the back. Teachers called her name twice before she answered. Other students barely noticed her. When they did, it was only to say she was strange, too silent, always lost in her own head. They did not know what lived there. Inside her mind, sounds were alive. Beats, layers, feelings that words could not carry. She never planned to stand on a stage like this. She never imagined lights or crowds. She only wanted to know if the music inside her was real, or if it would fade if she shared it. Now, here she was. The judge leaned forward. So, where's your band? She swallowed. I am the band. More quiet laughter. Her face warmed. Not with shame, with something else. A mix of fear and relief. Fear of failing. Relief that there was no turning back. The lights above her seemed brighter now. The air felt thinner. Every sound echoed. She closed her eyes for one moment. In that second, she was back in her room. The pale walls. The small window. The soft hum of the world outside. She could feel the floor under her legs. The steady beat of her heart. That beat had always been her first sound. She opened her eyes again. I'm ready, she said. The music did not start. There was no signal, no background track. She stood still. Then she made the first sound. It was low, soft, barely there. A hum from deep in her chest. Not pretty, not perfect, just real. People leaned forward. Another sound followed. Sharper. A breath pushed out in rhythm. Then a tap of her foot. Once, twice. The hall changed. The quiet was no longer empty. It was full of waiting. She layered the sounds slowly, one after another. Each one careful, each one placed like a stone on water. Her hands moved. Her shoulders shifted. Her body became part of the rhythm. She was not performing. She was building something. The judges stopped smiling. The audience stopped whispering. Somewhere between the third and fourth sound, something clicked. The girl on stage was no longer small. She filled the space without moving from her spot. Her face changed. The fear soft. Focus took its place. She listened to herself, adjusting, correcting, trusting. This was how it always felt when she was alone. Time slowed. The world faded. Only sound remained. But this time, the sound had witnesses. She remembered the first time she tried this in front of someone. It was years ago. In the kitchen, late at night, she thought no one was awake. She had been tapping softly, building a beat with her voice. Then a light turned on. Someone stood there, confused. "What are you doing?" "De I asked." She stopped. Her face burned. She could not explain it. She never tried again. Now, she did not stop. The rhythm grew stronger, clearer, more confident. Her voice shifted, changed tone, became something new. People began to feel it before they understood it. A woman in the crowd held her breath. A man nodded slowly without knowing why. The judges exchanged looks. Not words, just looks. This was not what they expected. The girl did not look at them. She did not look at the crowd. Her eyes stayed forward, but unfocused, like she was seeing something else. Maybe she was seeing the version of herself that practiced in silence. The one who doubted every sound. The one who almost stayed home today. Her hands trembled for a second. The rhythm almost broke. She caught Italiano. That moment mattered more than any note. The moment she chose to continue. She added another layer. Higher this time. Brighter. It lifted the sound, gave it shape now. It was music. Real music. And it was coming from one person. The lights above seemed warmer. Or maybe it was just the feeling in the room changing. The air felt closer, like everyone was leaning into the same moment. She felt something rise in her chest. Not pride. Pride, not joy. Release. Years of holding back poured into the sound. Not loud, not dramatic, just honest. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was trying to be heard. The rhythm carried her forward. Each beat pulled the next one out of her. She trusted it now. Trusted herself. The girl who once stayed quiet in class was filling a hall without raising her voice. She reached the edge of something. A turning point. The place where she usually stopped when she practiced alone. This time, she went further. She took a breath. And the sound shifted. The room felt it. Something was about to happen. She knew it. Ich knew Italiano. And just before the next sound could fall into place, the moment hung there, waiting. What happens when the sound you feared to share becomes louder than your fear? The next beat dropped. Sharp. Clear. Strong. It cut through the hall like a sudden breath after holding it too long. The rhythm changed shape. Faster now. Full. Her voice moved in ways it never had before. High. Then low. Then steady again. She was no longer testing the sound. She was trusting it. Her foot tapped harder against the floor. Her hands moved without thinking. Each sound locked into the next like pieces of a puzzle, finally fitting together. The room felt smaller, not because the space had changed, but because everyone inside it was pulled into the same place. The same moment. The judges sat still. No notes. No whispers. Just eyes fixed on the girl who had walked in with nothing. The audience forgot to breathe. Her face showed it now. The effort. The strain. The courage. Sweat formed along her hairline. Her jaw tightened as she held the rhythm together. This was the part she never practiced in front of anyone. The risky part, at home, she always stopped before this moment, always afraid of what might happen if she went too far. Afraid the sound would fall apart. Afraid she would lose control, but the stage held her. The lights did not judge. The silence did not laugh. Sosa went on. Her voice cracked for half a second, a tiny break. Her heart jumped, but she did not stop. She turned the crack into part of the sound. Bent it, shaped it, let it live. That choice changed everything. The music grew warmer, deeper. It felt alive now, like it was breathing with her. The hall responded. People leaned back in their seats, then forward again. Some smiled, without knowing why. Others felt tears rise without warning. This was not about skill anymore. It was about truth. She remembered all the times she had stayed quiet, all the times she had chosen not to speak, not to share, not to risk being seen. Those moments flowed through her now, not as regret, but as fuel. Each beat carried them away. The final section came closer. She felt it in her chest before she heard it. The place where everything had to come together. Her hands shook again. She took one deep breath and jumped. The last layer rose high, clear and bright. Her voice filled the space, not loud, but full. Complete. The rhythm slowed, tense off to Ned, then stopped. Silence fell. Not empty. Silence, full. Silence, the kind that holds something fragile. For one long second, no one moved. She stood there, chest rising and falling fast, her eyes opened wide now. She was back in the room, back under the lights, back in her body. She looked toward the judges for the first time. Their faces had changed. I sat with hands pressed together, eyes wide. Another leaned back slowly, shaking their head in disbelief. The third smiled, not the polite kind, but the kind that comes when something unexpected touches you. Then the hall exploded. Applause crashed like a wave. Loud, sudden, endless. People stood up, clapped, cheered. Some wiped their faces. Others laughed, overwhelmed. The girl did not move. She froze. The sound hit her, all at once. It was bigger than she imagined, louder than any thought she had ever had alone in a room. Her hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes filled. She blinked hard, trying not to cry. She had dreamed of being heard. She never dreamed of this. The judges stood. One of them spoke, but the words barely reached her through the noise. It did not matter. The meaning was already clear. She had done it. Not because she was perfect, not because she was fearless, but because she stayed. When it would have been easier to stop, she stayed. The applause slowly faded. She could hear her own breathing again. Her legs felt weak. She laughed softly, almost surprised she was still standing. She nodded once, as if thanking the moment itself. As she walked off the stage, the lights dimmed behind her. The noise followed for a few steps, tense off the net. Backstage was quiet. Plain walls, cool air, a small table with water bottles. She sat down slowly. Her hands still shook. She looked at them and smiled. These hands had tapped on knees in silence. These hands had hidden in sleeves. These hands had created something real. Someone passed by and said something kind. She nodded, but the words floated past her. Her mind was still on the stage, still in the sound. For the first time, the quiet did not feel heavy, it felt airned. Later, when the lights were gone and the hall was empty, she would return to her room. The pale walls would still be there. The small window, the old curtains, but something would be different. She would no longer practice in secret. Not because the world had changed, but because she had. She learned something that day. That being alone does not mean being small. That silence can hold power, and that sometimes The bravest thing you can do is make space for your own sound. The stage would remember her, but more importantly, she would remember herself.